Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're popping into the Zoom. DS Free is back for another school year with our monthly Ask Me Anything series. On behalf of the Data Science for Everyone Coalition, welcome to Data Science for Your School or District, an implementation spotlight. While we're waiting for folks to join Zoom, we would like to invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. So state your name, organization, and why you're interested in joining the event today. We'd love to hear from you. My name is Eric Drozda. I'm the Executive Director of Data Science for Everyone. To give you a little bit of background on us, DS Free is a national initiative, coalition, and community based at the University of Chicago. We're striving to catalyze the adoption of data science and data literacy as a basic component of K-12 education. We are a community-driven effort of now over 3,000 education leaders and practitioners, and we currently help advance 4 primary goals, as you see on the slides here: raising awareness, gathering and catalyzing classroom resources, community building, and then advancing policy as it relates to data science education. A key component of our community building work involves holding events with ambassador speakers like this one. So before we move to officially starting this event, I want to quickly plug our next upcoming one, happening on November 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern. We hope you'll leave today's conversation inspired and also ready to join us for the next one, which is accessing AI, bringing 21st century skills to your classroom. Our team will drop a registration link for that event in the chat momentarily. And additionally, if you are attending NCTM, or the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics annual conference in Washington, D.C. later this month, I believe it's just in a week, we'd love to connect with you in person. We'll both be facilitating in-person community meetups and advocacy data days of action, where you'll get to connect with your congressional representatives to advance data science education on the Hill. So be sure to check out signups and session guides we're dropping in the chat to get involved in those opportunities. So moving to today, I am super thrilled to introduce this lineup of education experts who have proven successful at building engaging and innovative data science education programs for students of all backgrounds and grade levels. In just a moment, I'll pass the mic over to our moderator, Javeria Salman. She is an education reporter for the Herchinger Report covering innovation, technology, and education, and is the writer of the report's Future of Learning newsletter. We also have with us today Sunny Tajor, the instructional specialist for the Oxnard Union High School District, Shayla Wallace, Regional Director of the Graduate Aims and Project-Based Learning at KIPP NYC, and Taylor Gibson, Dean of Data Science and Interdisciplinary Initiatives at the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics. These are leaders who have made incredible strides in growing data science learning opportunities in their communities and spanning states across the country. So we have a really deep pool of wisdom available to us here today to learn more about their work and what they've done. I'm especially excited about this conversation being centered around action, and I hope our hope from this discussion is that you'll be able to bring away tangible takeaways that you can bring to your own learning communities across the country. And finally, before we get started, we'd like to remind everyone about the DS Free community standards. We believe everyone belongs in the data future and that healthy debate is productive and beneficial. So we welcome coalition members from all walks of life and with those with the diverse viewpoints to this community. To ensure robust and supportive participation in the organization as a whole and in DS Free events, all participants and organizational leaders will be held to a code of conduct that creates an environment of respect, inclusion, and effective communication. You can learn more about those standards, including how to report any issues, on our website. And a member of team will also drop that link in the chat so you have access. So with that, getting all those announcements out of the way at the beginning here, I will now pass the floor to Javeria to get started with our panel conversation.
Thank you, Zarek. Hi, everyone. My name is Javeria Salman. I'm the Future of Learning reporter at the Herchinger Report. We've been covering data science, and so I'm really excited to kind of learn from our panelists and ask them some questions about what these data science education programs look like around the country. So before we get started, I just want to invite you all to share any questions that you guys have in the chat. Whenever you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat, and then we'll try to get to them as much as we can. We'll be monitoring the chat throughout the discussion today. So I'm going to take a couple minutes and kick out our conversations by letting our panelists introduce themselves. So to my fellow panelists, can you guys please say your name, where you work, and what makes you so passionate about data science education?
I'll go ahead and jump in and kick us off, and then I'll pass it off to somebody. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Taylor Gibson. And I work at the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics here on our Durham campus this afternoon. We also have a second campus out in Morganton. We're a specialized STEM high school here in North Carolina, public school for our students. We do a lot of amazing things, but one project I'm really proud of and I've been a big part of is our data science curriculum. A lot of our juniors and seniors here at the high school take this course, and on our Morganton campus out in the western part of the state, every student there takes it. I've been really passionate about our students working with data for a long time now, and I've been really excited to be a part of working with data science for everyone to bring opportunities to our students and faculty in the region to learn more about how they can benefit from working with data. I'll pass it over to Sunny.
Hi, I'm Sunny Sajor. I'm the math instructional specialist with the Oxnard Union High School District. We're in Ventura County, which is about an hour north of Los Angeles. And I got into the data science game in my position as a math instructional specialist about 3-4 years ago. And the reason why I'm so passionate about data science, being a longtime math teacher, right? I felt that there needs to be some new innovations in math curriculum. And not only does data science allow that from a statistics-based point of view, but I love the fact that there's coding involved. And for a lot of our schools within our district, the computer science coding was only available for AP kids. So through data science, we're now offering coding and statistics analysis to a whole array of kids that are not necessarily AP kids, although AP and honors kids are part of the program as well. And then Shayla.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shayla Wallace. I am the Director of Special Projects at KIPP NYC, which includes our Graduate Aims and Project-Based Learning Initiative, which we're launching this year. We have over 18 schools across 3 different boroughs, the Bronx, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. And we have been engaging in data science work since 2020. We actually launched the work during the pandemic, so that was an interesting thing. But we're super excited to share our innovative strategy around how we have embedded data science in social studies and developing what we call social scientists and using data in a way to look at the past and to think about what's happening in the future and to infer and predict what can happen. So we're just super excited of a different way to add data. I'm a former scientist, so this is a cool way to kind of like pull in data to a different content area and to also encourage girls to fall in love with numbers in a different way.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'm so excited to hear about the different programs. But how about we start off from, maybe we can just start from the beginning. If you guys can share how your programs have grown over time. I know that some of the programs are, like Shayla, you said yours started in 2020 and some of them are a little bit older. And so if you guys can share about what you guys have learned, how your guys' program started and what you guys have learned in the last couple of years. Shayla, if we can start with you and then we can kind of go.
Sure. So we started this work really backtrack 2019, and the way that we got engaged in this work is we were offered an opportunity through the Robin Hood Learning and Tech Fund, which was a new fund at the time in New York City, to start work around computational thinking and data science. And so we applied for a grant and really thought about where are some strategic areas currently in our curriculum that we can add skills, particularly in relation to computational thinking and data science, but as well as thinking about the bigger picture. How can these skills help with literacy, math? We have a goal around 8th grade algebra. And so we thought about 2 areas. Part of that grant funded our computational thinking work and this idea of using the computational skills in grades K through 4 as foundational skills to help kids be successful in data science. So we started that computational thinking work in science as units written as part of our science curriculum. And then we thought about what other subject area that is kind of like left out, that does not provide students a really great opportunity to work with numbers. And then we landed on social studies. And so that grant allowed us to write units 4 units to start off that year, particularly in 5th grade, as a way, because the idea was to build off of the K4 units, stamp that, and then the bridge will be the 5th grade data science and social studies. So we wrote 4 units that year. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we were only able to pilot 2, like, the pandemic happened. And then over the past couple of years, that work has expanded to now we are expanding the data science and social studies vision across grades 5 through 8. And so that's the next iteration of our work. And then we're also expanding it into 4th grade as well.
Oh, great. And Taylor and then Sunny, we can go to you.
Sure. Yeah, I think my timeline here at North Carolina School of Science and Math actually matches up a lot with what you just shared, Shayla. We started thinking about it probably 2019 as we were planning our new campus. We wanted it to have something a little bit different than our existing campus. And we did a survey and kind of figured out, working with data is something our students do really well already, but we wanted to equip them with the tools and the mindset to kind of really take that to the next level as they're going off to do whatever. The thing I really should have said this in my intro, the thing that really gets me excited about working with data is almost like a superpower. It lets you do all of the things that you love doing already, but to the next level. And we wanted to offer that opportunity for our students. So we started offering data science coursework in fall of 2020. So again, not the best time frame to be bringing new curriculum to the world during COVID, but our program started pretty small. We serve now about 1,000 students here at the school, and we maybe had 40 students in that first year choose to take the coursework. But it's grown steadily over the years. I think our students really have been demanding this almost probably before we even had thought the idea of bringing data science, is that our students are pretty well attuned to being able to work meaningfully with data is going to bring them where they want to go academically and in their careers. So it's grown very quickly. As soon as students got word that we're offering this type of coursework and opportunities, they flocked to it. And this year, we are serving, I'm kind of trying to do the number from memory, but I want to venture probably close to 250 students this year will take a course in data science with us. So it's been growing, and now we're to the point where we're looking for what can we do beyond coursework. We want students to go out now and apply these skills, maybe in some academic research, maybe in an internship or a career mentoring program. But it's one thing to learn it in the classroom, but a whole other thing to go off and apply it to a problem of your own or to work with a community organization to solve a problem they have. So that's where we're looking to next. And we're also we just finished our first round this summer of teacher professional development. We know that anytime there's a huge new curricular movement out there, teachers need support and resources to effectively deliver on that. And we just taught just about 50 teachers this summer a course for a week here in North Carolina about how do you prepare to teach a course in data science? How do you as a teacher have the foundational skills and understand the tools to be able to do that effectively? So it's been a crazy ride since 2020, but it's been really exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it takes us over the next few years. Turn it over to you, Sunny.
Yeah, our data science journey for our district started actually with a seed that was planted by our former superintendent, Dr. De Leon, approximately, I think it was 2018, maybe 2019. She asked me, Sunny, is there a way to teach math to kids that don't realize that it's math? And so it made me think a little bit about like what's out there that teaches math, but isn't your classic algebra, geometry, algebra 2, that kind of stuff. So my partner and I have to give him credit, Jay Sorensen, who's on the call, that was a partner with me in creating the data science program with our district. We actually went to a seminar at UCLA, my alma mater, by the way, shout out to the Bruins, for a introduction to data science a seminar. And so we learned about their program. UCLA was trying to get data science in the schools. And so we looked at their program, but we were fortunate enough to already have a partnership with Bootstraps, right? Based out of Chicago, Emmanuel Schasner, give a shout out to him, their director. They just created a data science curriculum. And so we decided to run with that. And as Taylor said, the key to all this is actually teacher training. So we trained up maybe 20 teachers, hoping something would stick. So we trained up 20 teachers over our 12 high schools. And luckily we had one teacher, Stephanie Davidson, over at Pacifica High School, that decided, let's go for it. So she ran one section with maybe 25 kids during the pandemic. So similar to the previous stories. So it was successful, but most importantly, it got the ball rolling for us. And then the following year, we were able to get 3 more schools involved. And then this year now we have, I think, 8 schools. So our program has now increased to approximately 400 kids. And we're hoping the other schools can jump on or maybe increase the sections. So, we're looking forward to improving our curriculum. One of the things that we want to do, and I'm going to do a job alike with the math teacher soon, the data science teacher soon, is to make it a little bit more project-based, making it more, as Shayla said, and Taylor said, connected to even real world problems, and maybe connected to some of the issues that are the social justice issues that are around our community. So yeah, we're looking to expand it for sure.
Great. No, thank you so much. And I guess my follow-up question would be, so we're talking about starting these from, I know from Shayla, you started some of the younger grades, and then Taylor and Sunny, you guys are talking about more of the high school level. But, especially because you guys started during the pandemic, I'm like thinking of all the things that the teachers were required to do during the pandemic and starting these new programs. What does this look like, having teachers and admin staff come on board and have to teach these classes? What does it look like to embed data science courses in their day-to-day instruction or integrated into already existing instructional material? Can you guys explain from your schools what that looks like?
Can I go ahead and answer that question? Yeah, one of the challenges that we had is a lot of counselors, students, parents, teachers didn't really understand what data science was. So just throwing a data science class out there thinking that they will come wasn't going to work. So one of the key things, I have to give credit to my partner Teo here, who's actually with me right now. We created a video that we shared out with all of the students, with all of the counselors, so they understood what data science is and where does it fit in terms of them, in terms of their coursework, how it can prepare them for college, that kind of stuff. And that seemed to be a turning point for us, because at that point, not to say that everyone understands data science and where it fits perfectly. I know there's still some things that need to be worked out, but at least people had a better understanding of it, and teachers and parents and students could speak to it. So that kind of gave us some traction. So that way, administrators would put it on the master's schedule because they did see kids wanting to take the course.
I can add that a lot of our teachers were scared when we introduced the concept of data science. And to add on to Sunny, I didn't forget to, but I wanted to talk about our partnership a little bit later on with them. But in order for us to do this, we really partner with Bootstrap as well to think about how to bring these skills to life, particularly in social studies, and something that was a new content area in our middle schools. So a little bit about KIPP. Our middle school starts in 5th grade, goes from 5th to 8th grade. So that if you hear me refer to middle school, that's what I'm talking about. But in particular with our teachers, the way that we did things at KIPP NYC, we like to slow ramp things. And so that included in 2019 when we launched the first unit, which I would love to talk about our unit, which is a really cool unit. We were really intentional about piloting the curriculum first with schools that we felt like were invested in the initial vision, that we knew we would get good fidelity, good implementation of the curriculum, and monitor some of the progress from that. And so that initial training included a 2-day training in conjunction with Bootstrap as the data science experts, where the teachers actually act like they were students and did the entire unit, right? And so from that experience, the teachers were intimidated, but they were like, oh, okay, this is how we use Google Sheets now. Like for some of the basic skills that were missing, we were like, we didn't even think about, like, teachers don't know how to use Google Sheets. They don't know how to add things in Google Sheets. So we actually had the teachers experience it first. And then that second day was like, well, how does this unit come alive in a classroom? What are ways that you need to internally prep, maybe make additional materials? What additional lessons do you think that you would need to add if there are some skill and content gaps? And then we allow teachers about a month to kind of marinate on the stuff they were presented. We also included sessions for feedback. just in case we needed to make additional modifications to the units. And then that led to the first official pilot happening in December of 2019, which included three of our middle schools, three out of the 8 of our middle schools at the time. So we just piloted that, and then the following year, the expectation was that all schools would then implement the unit with additional training in a similar format. So that's how we have done implementation. Me at the time, I was over the science part of our program, and so I just made it very clear to our leaders that data science is a bigger part of our vision. This is not just some cool concept, but really aligning that the 4 areas of focus was around changing attitudes and computational thinking and data science, especially along females, showing that now kids can gather, infer, make conclusions about data, and they will improve in college readiness, and that this is a cool way to explore social studies content. And so really just stamping that vision and making it very clear to the bigger idea for all of the kids and how it benefits not only the school, but the students in the long run.
Right. Taylor, did you want to add to that?
The only thing I'll add, just thinking about the question, like, how do we get it up? Some parts are really easy to get going. Like science teachers are really excited to like enable their students to work with data in a really meaningful way. Others are really hard, like hiring and things like that are really challenging for something so specific as data science. I don't think you're going to go out and hire a data science scientist to come now work at your school to teach coursework in data science. It's all about kind of prepping the teachers you've got, the activities they've already developed, and it's really kind of just working with them to upfit those tried and true activities that they've been using, but kind of really help and work alongside teachers to figure out, you know, what are the tools of data science allow us to do now that we could never even think about doing before. I think it's kind of a crude analogy, but it's like if you've got an old TI-84 graphing calculator and you had to get the data in there from typing it in out of the textbook, like we're way past that even several years ago. But now with these new tools, these new kind of algorithms and everything that we can do, like how do we make that similar transformational shift from like the 84 to Desmos, and now maybe from like Desmos to these really cutting edge full-blown tools for our students to do the work, at least at the high school level that we're talking about here at NCSSM.
And Taylor, actually, I wanted to follow up with that from that question. It can be hard to determine like where to begin. And you mentioned like, you know, a lot of the tools that are coming into the classroom now are, you know, AI based and things like that. So can you talk about how do we consider prioritizing data literacy, AI or data science, especially when there's so many only a limited number of days in the classroom?
Yeah, it is hard, especially, you know, you hear it, you can't go a day in the news without reading about some new AI app or tool or something like that. And you think, well, maybe I should start teaching that now. And I think for me and everything I've been reading, all of these news articles, all of these tools, they all hinge on understanding the data that drives them. So whether it's, you know, the hot thing right now, of course, like the large language models like a ChatGPT, if you really dig under the hood, it's working with data. Now, how do we expect students to understand how? Well, they have to have a good understanding of just data in general. And I think if I had to pick just one thing I would wish for all of my students is just a good understanding of where does data come from, who's in the data and who's not in the data, because that leads to biases. And if you think about any sort of AI tool that's flashy right now, it's trained on data, and it's really just going to do a great job of recreating what's already in the data. So if you've got biased data and that it's not representative of whatever group it is you're trying to work with, whether it's cells in a dish or people in a state or whatever it might be, then it's not going to do a great job of actually representing the real world. So we have to have our students understand where the data came from, who's in it, who's not. And then some of those basic statistical tools about like, how can we manipulate that data? How can we see what's in there? So great data visualization. And if you think about it, I haven't mentioned anything that's like a cutting edge algorithm or anything. Like that's great. And if students get turned on to data and AI, they're going to go learn that someday. But what is foundational is how can you get meaning out of data? How can you read data effectively? And I guess that's nothing crazy difficult or cutting edge or modern. It's basic data literacy. And I think that's where it's got to start. And if you can start there, the other avenues will open up to students and they can approach them when they're ready to do so. I'm not sure if other folks, I'd be curious to hear other folks on the call who work with maybe younger students. So Shayla, maybe if you've got an idea. When by the time we get them in high school, they've already had so many life experiences of working with data in school in general. I'd love to hear, like, what are your thoughts when they're coming to you even earlier than I see them?
Yeah, I think what we're dealing with is just the beginning part is like, how are students gathering data? Where are they getting that data from? And then how to organize that data. And those are skills that I think, I think about my experience in math. I love math. I love science. So these were things that I enjoy doing. But for some reason, kids are, those skills are not there. And so really a lot of our earlier work is around gathering data. How do you gather data? What tools do you need to do to gather data? What questions do you need to ask to make sure the data that you are gathering it tells a story or makes sense? And then how do you organize that data, right? And once you organize it, what representations can you use to answer the question you're trying to solve? So I think those are the three main skills we really are trying to stamp in our younger grades. And then, thinking about our further work in grades 7 and 8, which Nancy is on our call from that has been helping us out with Bootstrap, is thinking about, well, how do kids then take that data to manipulate it, create inferences, predict things, and to tell the full story of what could be, particularly in answering questions in social justice issues.
Thank you, Shayla. I wanted to, I know we've mentioned Bootstrap, but I wonder if, and this can be a question for all three of you, but I wonder what other resources that you guys use as you guys were creating your curriculums or implementing these programs. What are the resources that you guys are relying on? What are the research that you guys are relying on? And how do you guys find that, research that is effective when you're creating these programs? Sunny, can we start with you?
Yeah, the biggest resource that we have in our district after we got started with Bootstrap is actually our teachers, right? So we've given our 8 teachers a space where they can collaborate, and then they can share ideas. And some people have ramped up the rigor in terms of the coding, ramped up the rigor in terms of the statistics. So, and people are bringing in other sources as well, right? And we're all learning too. I mean, the 8 teachers that are teaching data science, very few of them had coding experience, right? They're all math teachers, so they'll have the credentials in math. They all taught algebra, geometry, algebra 2, calculus, pre-calculus. So our collective learning is actually our biggest resource. And that's kind of what makes it exciting to be part of this team.
Yeah, we had something similar, Sunny. We started with our teachers as well. I was in the math department at the time, a lot of math teachers there because of the statistics needed. And then we explored a lot of different curriculums that are out there and readily available. You all already mentioned Bootstrap. There's Course Kata, there's IDS, there's UCubed. What we ended up going with, because it suited kind of our goals at our school, is UC Berkeley's Data 8 curriculum, because of the student that we have, and we already have a requirement that our students take either computer science or an engineering course. So we wanted something that would tie in nicely with the languages that we're already teaching at our school, which was Python, so that's what the Data 8 curriculum uses. But a lot of them, as we evaluated them, had very similar learning outcomes for students. They might sequence them a little bit differently or different activities that go along with them, but the outcomes are the same. And I think, Shayla, you kind of addressed them earlier. It's like understanding what's in the data, and then making some predictions about those data and some inference about, how meaningful is what we've observed in the data. You can get around those a couple of different ways. It's just the tools, how much programming, the rigor. Another thing I just really love about data science, particularly at the high school level, is it's low floor to get in, and then it's a high ceiling. Like if you've got super talented students who all take calculus, like you could reach them and do all sorts of calculus things with them. But if you don't have that level of student, or you want to do it in a younger grade, or they haven't had the math exposure yet, that's okay. You can tailor it to them as well. It's very flexible. And I think if you look at all of those curriculum, it gives you a great starting point. And then tagging back on what Sunny said, if you can tap into the power of the teachers that you've got in your school or in your district, they can really make it fit extremely perfectly for the students that you have, the school that you have, and meet them where they are.
I think we did a little bit different because at the time, social studies was an emerging subject in our middle school. So our chief academic officer, in conjunction with the senior director of STEM for the entire KIP network at the time, thought about within the New York social studies standards what were like what were cool topics to create like 4 great data science units. And then once we were able to meet with Bootstrap to see, okay, these are some potential topics we're thinking about. What are some data sets that we can potentially work with to create a project-based learning inquiry-based unit? And so that's how we approached it. And we hired on curriculum writers from various places within the KIP network to help write some of these units. And then once these, again, we like to do things slow. Once we piloted these units, then we got feedback from teachers about iterations that needed to be added to these units.
Got it. And I guess I want to go back a little bit, but talk about some of what is the most successful thing that you guys have done in implementing these programs, and what are some of have been your biggest challenges in implementing these programs?
I can start as I think when we, a lot of the teachers, I will say this again, they were the challenges are your teachers, right? The threshold of actually understanding what this means for them and for students. But I will say the greatest part of the implementation for us at KIP NYC is seeing what students create. And so, for example, one of our first units we piloted explore the Mayan civilization. And so there were 3 main questions that kids needed to answer by the end of the unit, which was the first was what happened to the Mayan civilization and what caused it to collapse. And so that main question was like the anchor throughout the unit, where students came in, we allowed them to come in with their ideas first, right? So some of the ideas was around just things about mass extinction or cannibalism, like things that they heard about. But the idea of this unit was to use data to debunk those particular thoughts about the Mayan civilization. So they were looking at things like bone samples of some of the people that they found and digging up the area, and they found like within the bone samples as part of the data science piece, Bootstrap found some of the in the bone samples, it illuminated their diet, right? They also were able to look at the size of the brain or the skull of different kids within the Mayan civilization, which debunked the rumor that it was to human sacrifices. So what they did throughout this unit was look at different data sets to debunk some of the rumors. But the ideas was as they progressed through the unit, the data sets will illuminate that the reason why that this particular civilization went extinct is because of deforestation, right? And so once they were able to arrive to that conclusion at the end, they needed to write an essay, present day, to the government, like saying, this is what happened in the past based on what the data we've seen with the Mayan civilization. And if you do not address it now, this is going to happen again. And so just to see the kids be super excited about how they were able to see these trends of data over time lead to impacting a very prominent civilization we read about today, and how this can happen in real time. Just, I think kids just was like, oh, we solved it. And now I can solve bigger things that are happening in the world. And so just seeing the joys on their faces and their notebooks and their artifacts and the essays they've written was a great way to see this come to life.
Thank you.
There too, I mean, going back to the students, the biggest thing for our district is when you walk into the classroom and you see kids who might be not as engaged in an Algebra 2 class or pre-calculus class, actually creating code, looking at Google Sheets, looking at the data, making inferences over real world situations, right? And realizing how useful math is, right? Because often for kids in those upper classes in high school, they start getting disenchanted with mathematics. Not all kids, but a good number of kids get disenchanted with mathematics. So having them take a class where they feel that it's really beneficial for them, not only in college, but probably in career as well. That's probably the best thing about it. And, and I kind of mentioned it before too, the coding aspect of it can't be underestimated. I mean, we all know that you need to know how to code if you want to get ahead a little bit in the world. And so can you imagine, I keep thinking to myself, geez, these 80 kids at the high school I used to teach at, if they didn't have this data science class, these 80 kids would have no coding experience when they went off to college or career, and they would be in a major disadvantage. So to me, that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about data science. Now, there are challenges, right? I mean, I'm in contact with Zarek recently, talking about how the University of California as kind of are re-looking as to where data science fits in terms of college admissions. So that's something that we're going to have to keep a pulse on to make sure that we put our kids in the best position when they take these data science classes, if they want to indeed go forward into, the higher university. But, I'm so excited to be part of it that, I have a great team behind us, and it sounds like we have a great team nationally for data science. So it's all going to be all for the good for the kids.
Yeah, I think the student stories for me are always the best measure of success. For me, it's when, after the very first semester we taught this course, I had a student come back the next semester, and he was in a chemistry class, and he's like, look what I was able to do in my chemistry class when I was analyzing my lab results. Everybody else was doing paper, pencil, or calculator, or even just a spreadsheet. And like, he was able to use this kind of new tool, this new methodology that he had learned in the data science class. I was like, this is so cool. And like, just the fact that he thought to use it, successfully did it, and then came back to share the success, to me was like one success story out of that whole class. And there's countless others like it, of students taking what they're learning in a data science specific class and then doing something else with it, which is really, for me, that's the whole point. If all we did was to teach data science one class and then nobody ever used it, then what's the point? But if students are going to get excited about working with data in a meaningful way and then take it and go off and do what they're excited about, that's the dream right there. So there's a lot of success that you can find in that. Challenges, I mean, we don't need to rehash all of them, but I think the one, I think Sunny, you mentioned it earlier, just helping people understand what it is and what it isn't. It's such a buzzword these days that when you say data science, everybody gravitates towards their preconceived notion about it. And helping just kind of lay a common foundation for parents, students, all the stakeholders in the conversation takes a lot of time. It's really hard to do and do well, but it's so worth it. But you've got to spend the time and just acknowledge that's going to be a challenge and make a plan to do it right.
Shayla, I have a specific question for you. And you mentioned this one in your last question, in your last answer, but what are the ways to connect data science education programs to social justice issues or community related issues, like you mentioned, to give students more of that real world sort of experience with data science?
I think I go back to, and Nancy, she's here, so maybe she can kind of chime in if she wants to. But like I said, we really looked at the social studies standards and thought about what cool way could we bring some of this work to life. And that included looking at New York City and some of the challenges that that can be associated with data. So for example, I am over project-based learning. We're launching that initiative here at KIPP NYC as part of our graduate aims work. And we are ambitiously rolling out a project-based learning vision across all of our schools, which means that all kids will get a project-based learning unit every year, starting from kindergarten up to 12th grade. Some of that work includes merging the Successful Data Science program from 5th grade to 8th grade to now 3rd grade. So for example, we have our elementary schools, they are reading particular books. And so one of the books in 3rd grade goes over voting and immigration laws. And so we said, oh, that'd be a cool way to merge data science and bring some social justice issues to life. So we're going to be writing a project-based learning unit this coming school year to pilot in May in 3rd grade, where we're going to extract data around immigration, around laws concerning immigration. And the goal is that at the end of this project-based learning unit, that is going to have data science, kids looking at data over time, that they will write a public policy piece that can be presented. So we just look for ways in our curriculum that we can merge these ideas in very innovative ways. And so luckily with our Wheatley curriculum, we have books based on our CRSC vision that are really pertaining to community and social justice issues, which has kind of made it easy for us in elementary space to kind of pull out some of these ideas to create really engaging units in data science.
Shayla, I might have to bug you afterwards. I want to take a look at some of this curriculum. Sunny and Taylor, I have a question for you guys. And I know Shayla answered this a little bit, but and you guys both work in high schools, and what should high school, these data science courses, should they be housed in a school's math department or a computer science department? You know, we've seen how like there's ways to implement it into disciplinary, you know, and so how are you guys implementing these courses, and where does data science education fit in into the current existing sort of structure?
So in my district, we're very cognizant of making sure that our kids, and this is California speak, are A through G compliant, meaning that they fulfill the coursework so they can get into the University of California and also the Cal States. So for us, the best fit for a data science was to be considered to get it approved through the University of California and the Cal States as a C math statistics course, right? And so we wrote the course up primarily statistics, right? However, I will point this out too, that University of California now has another designation for math computer science. So if I could go back in time, I might have actually requested designation in that regard. But the key for us is that it was essentially a third-year course or a fourth-year course after either algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. In our case, it would be math 1, math 2, math 3. But what was interesting, though, is that we found a niche for those students that weren't necessarily great at math or didn't necessarily have a love for math. And we saw that there was a lot of 11th graders that wanted to take the class after they took math 2 as an alternative to math 3/algebra 2. So that's kind of how it fits within our school district. And, you know, like I mentioned before, we have about 400 kids enrolled, but we feel that, and there is an issue though, because there are other competing courses. You know, we do actually have AP statistics. We actually have some other computer science CTE courses at other schools. But, you know, we feel that data science can be a legitimate choice for a number of, if not juniors, but seniors, not only as their fourth year senior class, but maybe as their elective course as well. And so we're hoping that we can continue that traction, right? So we can sustain the program over the long haul.
At NCSSM, we've started it as a math course, but over time have broadened that out to also allow our students to count it as their STEM elective when you're thinking about their graduation requirements. And we've really tried to embrace this as an interdisciplinary course. Like if I could wave my magic wand across the country, like in some ways our departments in the schools and our graduation requirements are so restrictive for a course like this because it doesn't fit cleanly in any one area. Yeah, you're doing statistics, maybe you're doing a little bit of coding, you might be solving some scientific problems or a humanities problem. It's like, so where does it go? It's a real challenge. And I wish it didn't have to go any one place because there's so many elements that bring it all together. We've tried to acknowledge that, at least at our school, by having teachers from different disciplines teach the course. So we have a common course I mentioned earlier on our Morganton campus. Every junior at the school takes it. And the teaching team is not just math teachers. It's math teachers. We've had chemistry instructors, physics instructors, computer science instructors, engineering instructors. We're working to get our first humanities instructor teaching it next year. We want that valid input from all of those different disciplines because data never just lives in a vacuum. It's always in context, and that context is important. And what better way to honor that than by having those discipline-specific experts on the teaching team so that when they're planning the instruction for the week or planning the assessment, those different voices can speak to that context at the best possible level. So now that we're out of the dream world where hopefully it can get one day, it's like you have to figure out what works best for your state, your school, your district to make the right decision for you all. But I wish we didn't have to make these siloed choices.
Right. Thank you. Sunny, I had a follow-up question for you. You're in California, and obviously we've seen some of the coverage around the controversy in California around implementing data science courses, and some of the public universities that have like allowed for applicants to sort of skip algebra 2 and take substitute it with data science. Those universities have walked back this effort. And so can you talk a little bit about that challenge of like making sure that students get challenging coursework that prepares them for college and the workforce, but also expanding the view of what they can take in high school, like introducing them to data science. So can you talk a little bit about that challenge of making sure that they get that challenging coursework like algebra 2, but also being introduced to data science?
All right, so when we first brought in data science in our district, we envisioned it primarily as a fourth-year course after Math 3, Algebra 2. But like I mentioned previously, that we found that there was a significant number of kids that would benefit from it, from taking it in the third year. But it was a little bit of a game changer for us when the University of California said a couple of years ago that they could supplant Math 3 and Algebra 2 with a statistics-based course like data science. And that really kind of exponentially grew our program, because at that point, teachers were saying, oh, cool, right? We need, because our teachers wanted to give alternatives to Math 3 and Algebra 2 to a significant number of our kids, right? So yes, that is a challenge. We're hoping that the University of California does recognize data science as a rigorous enough advanced math course. Maybe they'll have to include more statistics and probability standards that align to 11th grade work. That's fine. Our teachers are ready to do that, right? So, but I actually think it would be a major step back, right, if they don't allow data science to be available for kids in the 11th grade or after, or as a replacement for Math 3. Don't get me wrong, I'm a math teacher, right? I went to the School of Engineering. So so our district never tells kids not to take Math 3, not to take pre-calculus, right? But we want to make sure that data science is available to all our kids. And I want to say one last thing too about why data science is really important, because there's that equity piece as well, right? I mean, if you're a kid that takes Math 1, Math 2, Math 3, and then your third year to take pre-calculus, or most kids, Math 1, Math 2, Math 3, they don't take any math, because you don't only need 3 years of math to get into the University of California, then their math education ends. But now I'm thinking about those kids who come in below grade level, that come in as freshmen, maybe take in our class, a foundation of algebra, which is essentially a pre-algebra course. Their sophomore year, they take a Math 1/algebra course. Their second year, the third year, excuse me, they take a geometry/algebra Math 2 course, right? And often they just stop right there. Wouldn't it be great if they could choose data science as their third class or their fourth class to get ready for the University of California or the Cal States or community colleges? So to me, data science actually opens up pathways for kids to continue mathematics, because, right, unfortunately, that Math 3, Algebra 2 is too much of a gatekeeper for our students, right? So I'm hoping the University of California, continues, in my mind, the progressive step of allowing different types of curriculum to replace Algebra 2. And don't get me wrong, I'm a longtime Algebra 2 teacher. I taught it for 25 years. I understand the importance of it, but that's not, Algebra 2, Math 3 is not for every student.
Thank you, Sunny. No, I think that's a great explanation of it. I wanted to ask all three of you, but what are the possible opportunities? We're talking about college, but what are beyond college, beyond higher ed? What are the possible opportunities for collaboration with industry and with the workforce? Do your schools or entities have, do they offer credentials for students that would be recognized by the industry? How are you guys preparing students for the workforce?
We're getting ready to start this upcoming summer a small scale kind of pilot kind of internship program over the summer, where we've identified 3 local community organizations who are small, doing good in our local communities here, but perhaps don't have a data scientist on their staff. So it's not really an internship in the sense where they're going to go there necessarily and learn a bunch from a data scientist who's already in industry, but they're going to go and have a chance to apply their skills to help try and solve a problem side by side with these community organizations. We thought that'd be a valuable experience. It's like a service learning opportunity for our students to go out and test, how well did I learn this? How can I help somebody analyze a real world problem and go that route? We have not yet really looked at credentialing for our students. I think it's an interesting question. I'd be interested to hear if anybody else has, and even in the chat, if anybody's done that, that's definitely something we hear from our students as something they might be interested in. But I haven't really seen that done at scale really well at a high school yet. So if anybody knows how to do it, please share.
I think for us, we are a little, Taylor and Sunny are doing something. They're doing more high school work. We are really just trying to stamp a K-8 vision for data science. Again, we started in the middle because with grade 5, and then we're now expanding our data science vision in social studies to grades 5 through 8, and then starting to write in pilot units in grades K through 4. So really our immediate goal has always been that data science in conjunction with our computational thinking curriculum will help with algebra readiness in 8th grade, right? Algebra and biology are predictors. If kids can pass algebra, if kids can do well in biology, they are predictors of college success, right? So we just that is our major goal. We also are hoping that we begin to introduce kids to the world of coding through data science. So introduction to Python is something that we have been kind of talking about with Bootstrap, and looking at our 7th and 8th grade social studies data science units and how we can up the rigor there. But we have not really talked about the bridge into high school yet, and that's something that we are looking forward to figuring out outside of AP courses, outside of SAT, ACT, the basic things. What else can be an added piece that expands the data science work past 8th grade?
Thing I'll add on to it for our district is that, in terms of the bridge towards, let's say, the business world or to the workforce, is that part of the reason why our data science teachers got so excited about the course too is because they started saying, oh, I can bring in some guest speakers. Oh, I can connect my kids to certain industries that they might have some connections to. So we're still exploring that part of it, but I know our teachers want to make that connection with the industry. So that seems to be a path worth exploring, as Taylor has mentioned.
Yeah, guest speakers were big for us too. Like, kids can't understand how to do it unless they hear what opportunities are out there. So they can't be it unless they can see it. So bringing those folks in, whether it's on Zoom or in person, has been a big success and a big hit with our students as well.
No, that's great. Sunny, actually, we have an audience question. You mentioned the importance of equity and access. What steps can schools take to ensure that data science education is accessible to all students, but prioritizing differentiation in the classroom? Sunny, you can start, and then we can ask the other panelists too.
Well, if you know anything about a master schedule at a high school, there's a lot of competition there. So you just have to find a place for it. But what drives the master schedule ultimately is two things. It's the staffing. You have to have a teacher that wants to do the program. So as Taylor mentioned before, and as Sheila mentioned before, you got to provide that professional development so those teachers are confident to take on that challenge of becoming a data science teacher. And then the other, and in some ways the most important part, is the kids, right? Because if kids want that class, it's going to happen, right? Sometimes that's even more important than the teacher. High school teachers know that often kids will ask for classes and there's no teacher to teach it, but they'll still put it on the schedule anyway and see what happens. So, but it is important that you, number one, let the kids know that the class is out there. Train up those teachers. And by the way, I should also mention, you got to train up more than just that one teacher. Sometimes you got to have that backup teacher, because it happened at one of our schools, the school that I taught at, that we got some traction with the program. And then all of a sudden the teacher went ahead and moved to Oregon. And so we didn't have a teacher the following year. So the program almost died. Luckily, we had a teacher step up and go through the training. So, those are the types of things that you need to make sure that are in place. And then the equity takes care of itself, because the class is, as Taylor mentioned, I love his analogy saying that, there's a high ceiling and there's a low ceiling too. Kids who can barely that had minimal success in algebra and geometry can be very successful in the class, all the way to kids that are AP. And whenever kids and administrators and teachers see that, that class is going to flourish. When the class flourish, then equity just happens naturally.
I think our equity vision is that all kids are going to get data science, bottom line. And so that has been what we've led with, that it was not an experience that happened one-off, that kid, it was not happening in as a course selection opportunity. We said day one, this is going to happen in this particular course. And that means all students are going to get a data science unit every year. So that's how we saw the equity issue. So it's by any means necessary, and you're getting your math, and then you're also getting the cool opportunity to solve some social problem in a cool way. So today we have 9 middle schools, we have 8 elementary schools, which is about 5,000 kids, right? So all of our kids will have that is the equity, that is the accessibility from day one. All kids every year will do a data science unit.
Taylor, did you want to go ahead too?
I just echo everything that Sunny and Shayla have said. I think it's about providing the access, and not just opportunity for access in some cases, but even like that's why we went as far as saying every student at our school will take this class, because the master schedule problems are real. And when you come in and maybe you have to take a couple extra classes while you're here at our school, that boxes out opportunities for choice sometimes. And we didn't want that 1 or 2 semesters that students might have to make a choice then get blocked out because they had to take a English class or a science class that's competing for the same resources. We wanted to make sure it was a priority. And I think that's something I would advocate for as well, is make sure every single student gets the chance to take a class like this and not have to be subject to getting boxed out from some other systemic issues in your school or your district that would prevent them from being able to do that. It's in the name of the organization. We're all here to see it's for everybody. It's for everyone. And we just have to live up to the ideal every day we can.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah, Sunny, go ahead. Sorry, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing that hasn't been discussed that much, is about how data science actually influenced the teachers as well, right? And then it might speak to the equity as well. The thing is that, if you're a classic algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus teacher, you have a certain way of teaching, right? But then when you start teaching kind of project-based, inquiry-based classes like data science, it kind of spills over to the way you teach in your more traditional classes. And I think that's an important component of data science and why we need to make sure it's a viable part of our curriculums, be it math, be it interdisciplinary, be it science, because what it does is it actually makes the teachers realize that, hey, these kids can be interested, are engaged in these types of curriculum. And so that's the other part of equity too. Sometimes we talk about equity, just accessibility, but it's also the way that we teach kids, and all kids, especially kids of color, which our district is primarily made of, right? So having the best pedagogy that data science illustrates is really also another part of equity.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for adding that on, Sunny. We've unfortunately run out of time. I know we probably can go on for a little while longer, but I just wanted to thank you all so much for attending. This was a great conversation. Sorry, my computer is acting up. But I appreciate all of you guys taking the time to, participate. And for the audience, thank you so much for all your questions. It gave me a lot to think about as well. So thank you. I'm going to pass it back to Zarek to wrap up. Thank you.
Echoing appreciation from my end as well. I'm so grateful for everyone taking a little bit of time out of their afternoons and evenings to join us today. A huge thank you to our speakers. Let's give a virtual round of applause if you can to our amazing panelists and our moderator. We hope that you all are feeling inspired and fired up about applying these learnings here today to begin building a program of your own in your own school and communities, or integrating richer learning opportunities into the programming that you're already offering across school subjects. We're counting on all of you to keep the conversation going with other members of the Data Science for Everyone community. We encourage you to take advantage of the network to source ideas and support you as you take insights back to your home schools and districts. Another quick reminder that if you're coming to NCTM next week here in DC, please check out our session guides, advocacy opportunities, ways to get involved in community meetups. We also hope that you can see you at our next event on AI education and trying to connect some of these ideas between data science and AI, and how these topics can be blended together. And as Taylor said earlier, right, understanding the fuel that's behind a lot of these emerging technologies. If you want to get involved, feel free to take our Slack channel, our newsletter, LinkedIn, Twitter, many places to find us. I refuse to call it X. I reject the name change, the platform. And another plug, for many of the curriculum resources I referenced today, feel free to check out our resource center. We catalog many of these things and more, so you can get in touch with a lot of the resources for your own classroom to help make these programs a reality. Thank you all again so much. I hope you have an amazing evening. We'll see you back here next month for another event on data science education.